All right, guys, let's get on with it. First video of 2026, and it's called A Guide to Modeling Agencies for Models and Photographers, okay? It's going to be mostly for models, but photographers, I'm going to tell you what it's like working inside an agency as a lead photographer, and I'll give you some pointers on why that could be a good thing experience-wise, but why it wouldn't be something that you would want to do long-term, okay? So stick around to the end to watch that. Now, models, don't click away. I'm going to tell you some secrets about who actually stays the busiest in the industry, which type of model, and who makes the most money, generally speaking. And for photographers, stick around to the end because I'm going to tell you what it's really like to work as a lead photographer with inside an agency. And while it looks glamorous and a lot of fun, you get to work with beautiful models and all that, it's a lot of work for not a lot of pay. It's volume work, okay? And we'll talk about that. Give the video a like, give it a subscribe, and let's get on with it. So who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, I was on the ground floor of a startup modeling agency, regional agency here in Texas, serving San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and occasionally Dallas. So regional agency on the ground floor, contracted out as a lead photographer. Did a lot of digitals, a lot of comp cards, a lot of walking videos, and a lot of portfolio work, okay, for this agency. So I saw from the ground floor, from the startup through the development of the agency, how the whole process works, okay? So I have a unique perspective, and I can tell you sort of some things that are advantages to you and some things to watch out for, okay? All right, models. I'm just going to start it off with this. How not to get scammed. What's reasonable and what's not reasonable when you're onboarding with an agency. There's predatory behavior. There's unreasonable contracts. There's unreasonable upfront fees. I'll give you an example. I had a model come to me. She said she was with an agency for about a year. She paid $5,000 up front to be in this agency. And I was like, well, you got scammed. How many jobs did they get you? I mean, did the jobs that they get you at least pay for what you put into it, right? She said they didn't get me one job for the entire year. They paraded her in a giant casting where they onboarded her. They had some celebrities there, and she got starry-eyed, and she signed on the dotted line right away thinking that was her destiny, right? Don't do it. Way too much to sign. Now, you'll have some people that will say you shouldn't pay anything up front or it's a scam. I disagree with that. It depends. There's an agency side of the house and there's a development side of the house. If you're a fresh face, you're brand new, you have very little, if any, experience, you need to be developed, right? And that's what the development side of the house is for. And you can expect to pay a little bit of money up front to be onboarded into that type of situation. That's not a scam. If you're brand new, you need digitals, you need comp cards, you need some sort of portfolio, right? These things cost money. The agency has to hire photographers to do this. They have to hire makeup artists. They have to hire hairstylists. None of that is free, okay? Now, you guys out there can say whatever you want, that you shouldn't have to pay anything, but those are services. And I'll be damned if I'm running a business, I'm going to give those away for free up front because I don't know, even if the model does sign on the dotted line, that I'm ever going to see her again. And once I've delivered that stuff, I'm out that money and I may never see it, right? So you're paying for that up front, and that's fair. Okay. What you need to watch out for is inflated fees. Okay. You shouldn't be paying $500 for comp cards. Okay. 150 to 300 for comp cards and digitals. Okay. That's the range about roughly in my market. I'm in Texas. I wouldn't expect they would be much more in LA or New York, for example, right? Maybe a little bit more, not much. Portfolio, you could expect to pay, depending on the photographer, a lot of money, right? For me, I was charging between $500 or so at the time for 2 to 3 looks. That's very affordable. That's cheap. We're in Texas market now. I would probably charge between $750 to $1,000, okay, for 3 looks, okay. So you're talking about, depending on the photographer, you got to pay the photographers, and for portfolio especially, you want to makeup artists, hairstylists, right? That's another couple $100 per person, right? So it's very reasonable to expect to pay around $1,500, no more than $2,000 to onboard, as long as you know what you're getting for your money, okay? Make sure it's in the contract that you sign, and we'll talk about contracts later. What am I getting for my $1,500, $2,000? Am I getting digitals? Am I getting comp cards? Am I getting a portfolio shoot for my money, right? And when is that going to happen? I don't want to wait 6 months, a year. Look for those things. It's reasonable to expect that after you onboard, within 6 weeks, to start shooting those things, if not sooner, okay? $5,000 up front, don't do it. You're being scammed. $1,500 up front, perfectly reasonable in my mind. Okay. All right. So let's talk about agencies, types of agencies, and just generally how does this work? Okay. Now, models, very important before we get going here. You need to understand if you're a new model, think about what is your modeling path? What kind of model would you want to be? And what kind of model, be realistic, what kind of modeling is appropriate for you, okay? If you're 5'2", then be realistic. You're probably not going to be one of these 5'9", 5'10" agency models that have the agency build, right? That are doing the editorial runway type stuff, okay? So be realistic about your chances of being a model. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be tall to be a model. You don't. There's a lot of work out there, especially in the commercial industry, where you can be 5'4", okay, and it's or 5'5", and it's not a big deal because you're not doing those runway shows and things like that. And here's a little secret that you may not know is the commercial models are a little busier than the runway models. Why? Because there's a lot of commercial work out there, and they tend to make more money and have more jobs than the runway agency models who are sitting around waiting for that editorial work or those runway shows to happen, right? So a little inside info for you there. The modeling agencies have a lot of professional connections within the industry, and they're going to be able to get you booked with more professional clients. And these clients are vetted clients, okay? The agency is going to work for you to find you more professional clients to work with. You're generally going to have a more professional, better experience because you're going to get on more professional jobs, okay? That's the aim because they want to make more money. They want to get you these higher paying clients, okay? Because it's in their vested interest to book you, to keep you booked with as many jobs as possible. Why? Because they take 20%. Because the more money you make, the more money they make from that 20 to 30% or maybe higher cut, okay? So your mother agency is generally your main representation. They handle your brand long term and may place you with other agencies, right? They're generally going to give you that training ahead of time, get you ready and prep so that you can handle this professional work, so that you have your digitals, your comp cards, your all the training that you need and everything that you need to know to be successful when working with either other agencies or clients, right? Now, these other agencies are going to be able to get you those jobs, say, in New York or LA and things like that. Now, I will say, Texas is not a huge modeling hub, okay? It's just not. If you're, say, in a smaller market like that, be prepared to just not get those glamorous jobs unless you're willing to travel. And that's another expense, you know? So if you can be in LA, if you can be in New York, if you can be in Miami, that gives you a huge advantage in your ability to be on location at those jobs because you're right there, right? There's no fees, travel fees and things like that. That's another expense, right? That the agency would have to cover or you're going to have to cover yourself, okay? So be mindful of that. All right, let's talk about contracts and some red flags to look for. Now, the first one is not really a red flag, but it's exclusivity. A lot of agencies will require you to sign an exclusive contract, meaning you can't work with people unless you get their permission or let them know and they approve it, right? Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's them protecting their brand. They don't want you just going off the radar and doing whatever you want, working with whoever you want, or even taking in compensation for stuff that they didn't arrange, right? That's them being professional. So it's something for you to be aware of so you don't break the terms of your contract and decide whether that's going to work for you or not, okay? So not a red flag. I think it's actually a good thing. It protects you and the agency, and it helps maintain the professionalism of your brand, making sure that you're taking advantage of the best opportunities possible, right? So second one, look for auto renewal terms. When does your contract end? What's the date? Does it auto renew or do you have to renew? Is there a fee? If it does auto renew, are they going to automatically charge you something? Look for things like that. Look for indemnity clauses, things that assign liability to you to where they have no liability for anything. Anything that happens on the job, anything like that. I can tell you right now, as far as bookings, if you're not getting any bookings, it's your fault. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But see, as long as you're getting castings, that's the thing. See, the agency is always going to have a way out. Oh, well, we got you castings, but you didn't get any bookings. Well, you didn't get the job. We sent you the opportunity. You went to the casting. It's up to you to get the job. So they always have a way out. If you don't get any jobs all year long as they got you castings, then they've done what they're supposed to do, right? So they always have a way out. So just keep that in mind. So there's no guaranteed work. Look for that. I doubt that you'll find it in a contract that there's guaranteed work, because at the end of the day, you got to pass that interview at that casting. I call it an interview, but that's basically what it is, right? So keep that in mind. No guaranteed work. Look for vague exit clauses. Give yourself an exit clause. If you don't get any castings or a certain amount of jobs within 6 months, give yourself a clean exit out. Is that somewhere in the contract, right? To where you can terminate and get out clean, right? And always, I will say, just to close this section, always have someone with legal experience review your contract and give you legal advice on whether there is anything in there that you should be concerned about. Don't rely on agency reps to explain your contract for you, okay? Now, agency photographers get a lot of shade because they go, oh, those are not the best photographers out there. Fair point. They work for, and here's where it is, photographers. They work for, generally though, agencies will bring in photographers that they don't have to pay a lot of money, right? Because they want to keep costs down. And those generally are not the best photographers in the world, okay? Now, I was a lead photographer with the agency, and I feel like I did pretty good work. You can look at some of the work that I create. Am I the greatest photographer in the world? No, but I definitely ain't the worst. So I feel like I do quality work. I'm a self-starter, right? This is not an interview for me, but I'm telling you, as photographers, things that you need to be cognizant of. You need to be able to handle your own, take initiative and reach out to the models that the agency says, we need you to do digital comp cards or portfolio for these models. That should be all the agency has to say to you, and then you should be able to handle it from there, right? Because they are sending you a lot of volume, they're paying you a little bit less, right? Let me say that again. They're sending you a lot of volume, so they're paying you a little bit less, and that's what they're going. We're going to keep you busy as a photographer, right? Well, you're going to keep me busy doing 20 shoots a week, right? Making what I should be making, doing 5 shoots a week, right? Think about that. And as photography in general, think about doing less gigs and charging more, right? All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope this video was helpful to you. And if you're still watching, I really appreciate you. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. I'm giving you information from my perspective, my market area. I'm not a New York photographer. I don't have that experience. I'm not an LA photographer. I don't have that experience. If you have that experience, if you can provide some constructive information from your perspective in a larger market, I'm in a smaller market, feel free to leave those comments and advice down there. We'd really love to hear from you. All right. So everyone have a great one, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.